The nominees for Best Actress in a Broadway Musical are Angela Lansbury in Dear World, Maria Karnilova in Zorba, Dorothy Loudon, The Fig Leaves Are Falling, and Jill O'Hara, Promises, Promises. And you're all only wonderful. The winner is Angela Lansbury. You gave me a couple of years ago. Here, my darling.
It's funny, you never really dare believe that this moment is going to happen, so you're never really prepared. This is a glorious honor, and I'm deeply grateful for all of you who have given it to me. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Is that just lovely?
Oh my goodness. Like, where does your husband find these things?
He's the magical mystery man.
I mean, my closet is pretty fantastic, but like your husband's closet, I don't know.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. Oh my goodness.
Welcome back to My Favorite Flop After the Bows. I'm Kristina.
And I'm Bobby, and we are the hosts of My Favorite Flop.
And we are here to wish you a happy May the 4th be with you day.
Oh, that's so good. I love that you have that today. Oh my gosh. I totally forgot. And that's why I was like, I'm going to post a demo from the Star Wars musical. So for anyone watching who hasn't checked that out yet, it is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter today. So there you go.
Yes, it is. You can find us on all the social media at My Favorite Flop. You can also check out our website down there, myfavoriteflop.com. We love hearing from you guys. It's so great. Now, this past Tuesday, our episode all about Dear World dropped, and you can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, and when you listen, don't forget to click the little subscribe button and write us a 5-star review so more awesome people like you can find us. Continue.
Yes. So we are super excited because today we get to continue the conversation about Dear World.
Oh my
Bobby.
gosh. And we have a really, really special guest to help us dig a little bit deeper, right?
Yes, we're super excited. So this cast member was one of the stars of the 2000 Goodspeed Opera House revisal.
Yes. So, okay, everyone, please give a round of applause for our very special guest, Ben Sheaffer.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Bobby,
Oh, man.
Oh,
hello.
Hello. It's great.
We're so happy you're here.
I'm so happy that this is finally happening.
Oh my God. I remember when we announced we were doing this podcast and you were one of the first people and you're like, oh my gosh, what shows are you going to be covering?
Right.
I hope you do Dear World. And I was like, well, it's not on the docket yet.
Right.
And I spoke to Kristina and her husband, who was our executive producer. And I was like, so I think he would talk to us if we do Dear World.
Yeah.
And we totally changed the schedule for you. So
well, thank you.
And I'm so happy we did because I fell in love with this show. So thank you, Ben Sheaffer, for that.
You are welcome, Kristina.
Oh my gosh.
You're very welcome. Yeah. So there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot to fall in love with. I mean, we'll get into it, but it's a big, beautiful, sometimes mess. So,
it's truly beautiful. I mean, I think pretty garbage is the best way to describe parts of it. And anyway, Ben, I physically think I may have only met you twice in real life.
Right. I think that's right.
We judged at the New Jersey State Thespian Festival at
That's
least
right.
1 year together,
Yeah.
with our mutual friend and just person, Rich Affanato, the late.
Yeah.
Rest in
Yes.
peace.
Yes.
And
right.
before that, I was his assistant and producing associate.
Mhm,
I think
mhm.
you may have been the business manager of Affanato Productions at one point.
Yeah. So we, Rich and I had, we taught together down in Wichita Falls, Texas at Midwestern State,
Right.
master classes in auditioning and acting. And I taught some directing classes. Hello, doggy. Hi.
Live
Um,
theater, friends,
yeah.
live theater.
So, and then, Rich, I had actually met with some people here in Philadelphia when Rich was raising money for Prince of Broadway and
Right.
The Visit, I think it was, and yeah, just an incredible guy, and actually an integral part of the process for Dear World.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that in fact, when I knew we were doing this, I was like, we cannot talk about this without talking about Rich Affanato.
I said the same thing to Kristina. I was like, it will come up, and I have tissues handy in case we need to go there.
Yeah, just a tremendous guy. But yeah, so Rich and I it was down to me and Rich for
Julian.
And,
no way.
Yeah, and that's how we became friends. Actually, he knew a mutual friend of mine and my wife's, Lenora Eve, who he had done some shows with.
Lenora, oh my goodness.
Yeah, and Lenora's incredible, and so we were at the first callback, then we were at the second callback, and then we were sort of, it was just comical at that point that we kept going back because Richard Zabelico just kept bringing us back.
Of course.
And Rich said something irreverent and hilarious to me in the hallway, and we were friends, like that. And then for the next 2 or 3 months, we would go up for the same roles, and then he would get it, and then I would get it, and then he would get it. And so, it became sort of this running joke. And of course, later we reconnected. And for those of you out there that don't know who Rich is, he was a very accomplished Broadway and regional actor and successful Tony-nominated producer. And he succumbed to brain cancer, just over a year ago now, probably, right?
I just got chills. He passed last January, and if it's the saddest thing in the world, and if there was any kind of saving grace to it all, is that he didn't have to experience this last year of all of our lives.
That's
the pandemic.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point.
Bypass that completely, and I think about that quite often when I get really frustrated with what's going on in the world. I'm like, thank goodness Rich didn't.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, this is taking a big tangent, Kristina.
I'm good. You talk.
No, he was just he was very politically motivated. He worked on Hillary's campaign, and he would. The last year would have taken a lot out of him.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Absolutely. And his husband Gregory Trico is a great guy and a great Instagram follow for all of you people out there. He was a great Burr in Hamilton and is just a great guy, and he posts some great stuff, so check him out.
Oh, absolutely. All right, well, let's jump into it, Kristina.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. Okay, so before we get to the good stuff about Dear World, first things first, we have started a bit of a tradition here at After the Bows, a little bit of a rapid fire round, just some fun stuff to get to know you. All right. Okay. Are you ready? Here we go.
Yes.
Bobby, take it away.
What are you obsessed with right now?
Playing chess online.
Oh, that's a fun one.
And I'm showing my age, but I birdwatch sometimes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not afraid to admit that.
Okay. What do you want on your bagel?
Lox, onions, tomatoes.
I knew we would get a good answer from that one.
Yes, that was a good one.
Okay. Fill in the blank. Patti LuPone should play blank in 1776.
Rutledge.
Okay. I was going to say Ben Franklin, but Rutledge.
Angry. Yes. Bring in the 11 o'clock number. Just tearing the paint off the walls.
And for all of our listeners who don't know, he was in the revival of 1776 on Broadway.
That's right. That's right.
We'll continue.
She
That's
could
why.
give Greg Edelman a run for his money,
Yeah.
as Rutledge.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. What was your first audition song?
Love I Hear from Forum.
Makes sense.
Oh,
Yeah.
very nice. Very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay,
Way
you teach.
back when. Go on.
No. You teach.
Yep.
What's the weirdest piece of material a student has brought into class?
9 Inch Nails, I Want to Bleep You Like an Animal.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that was down in Wichita Falls.
In
Actually,
Wichita Falls.
this kid
That's
Keaton,
so
this
funny.
kid Keaton brought this in, and raised in like an evangelical family, and just brought this in, and we were like, okay.
Wichita Falls,
Wow.
the
Yeah.
birthplace of Tommy Tune. Just throwing that out.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's
So-
right.
Wow. Okay. That was not what I was expecting.
That was
Okay.
not what we were expecting.
I bet. All right. Who's your favorite Broadway diva?
I would say for acting and singing, bringing both, for me, it would be Audra McDonald.
Yes.
You know,
That's a good one.
You are speaking my language, sir.
I mean, doing everything that a Broadway star should do, but also like doing it in a really interesting and specific way that is specific to her.
Yes.
That's what I would say.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, what was the first Broadway show you ever saw?
Cats.
There you go. Yeah.
Perfect.
I was 9 and my dad drove us to New York and I wouldn't get out of the car. I was terrified of New York. I wouldn't get out of the car.
Oh, how ironic.
And we took a cab from Queens all the way to the Winter Garden because I didn't want to take the subway. It was so
Subway.
stupid. So stupid. But anyway.
What a good dad.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Hoagie or cheesesteak?
Cheesesteak.
Cheesesteak.
Cheesesteak. And in fact, we live about 3 blocks from D'Alessandro's, which consistently gets voted the best cheesesteak in Philadelphia.
There you go.
if
That
you
is
guys are
why
ever
you
in
pick
Philadelphia,
cheesesteak.
you go to D'Alessandro's. You stand outside and you wait for 40 minutes, but it's
That's
incredible.
amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I understand. Good food is good food.
That's right. That's right.
All right, but last but not least, what is your favorite flop?
I would have to say it's Deer World. I mean, honestly, I think Merrily is Merrily We Roll Along is interesting and has sort of an edge that makes it attractive even as a flop. But for me, it's Deer World because it has this weird ability to survive. And musically, I mean, from the front door to the back door of that thing, it's just beautifully written. The music is incredible. Some of the lyrics are like, I think some of his best and most like affecting. I think he wasn't afraid to write something that there's a lot in that is not commercially, attractive, but it's so good.
Absolutely.
So I
Completely agree.
So in that way, it's fascinating to me as a flop because it shouldn't be, but it continually is. So and we'll get into that.
We are going to get into that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to dig in now, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you come to be a part of the Goodspeed? You told us a little bit about how you were up for Julian along with Rich,
Right.
but how did it come? Did you know it beforehand? Was it something you sought out? Okay.
No, it was actually, I just switched agents and it was my first audition with this new agency. And I had obviously heard of Goodspeed and had just returned from the Sound of Music National Tour. So it's kind of jumping back into auditioning. I think the auditions were in like late July, August, because the show opened in November of 2016, I think. But I started auditioning for it. I liked the role. This character that sort of is conflicted because he's been taken care of by these corporate sort of giants, and then he gets sort of pulled into this hurricane of eccentricity, and love and all that stuff. And I liked Richard Sabellico a lot. Richard is an actor's director. I think he was chosen for that revisal specifically because he's very good at spotting story flaws and working with somebody like David Thompson to create like a really strong arc for a play. So I got him right away. I just liked him. He was great in the auditions. He directed me a lot. And so that's how it came about. And then we started rehearsals the end of September up there.
Okay.
And for anyone who has never
That's
been
a long.
Yeah.
That's a long rehearsal process for a regional production.
Yeah. So the whole idea was that, like they did, I think, with the Roundabout, they really wanted to really get into the book again and kind of tease it and take it apart. And they relied a lot on Sally Ann House for that, just her input into it. And David, also known as Tommy Thompson, but David was there. And then near the end of when we got into the theater, from tech to opening, Jerry Herman was there.
Oh my gosh, how cool.
Yeah. And well, actually maybe half a week before that, because he was in the rehearsal studio still. And he rewrote some things, some interludes, and just for story's sake, he didn't do too much in terms of the lyric songs. But yeah, anybody who's never been up to Goodspeed, when things get back to normal, go up to Goodspeed. It's an incredible place, and it was an incredible kind of playground to get that play kind of back, I think, where it needed to be, still isn't. Maybe someday will be, So, and the cast it was a great cast. Sally Ann Howes, Georgia Engel, who was in Hello Dolly with Ethel Merman. She played Minnie Fay.
Wow.
Diane Findley, who was kind of like a Broadway broad, was one of the Mad Women, and Dickie Bell. Just a lot of like great journeyman actors. Jeff Talbot, who is writing plays now, was writing plays then, and has great acting resume. So it was a really strong cast.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so crazy. I somehow didn't connect in the research that I did that Richard directed this. I've never worked with Richard from a director standpoint, but through Rich, obviously they remained very good friends, and I've met him several times, and he's absolutely lovely. That's so awesome. So Jerry Herman was there. They had made a lot of the changes that you guys had gone into for the Roundabout that didn't happen, right?
Yes.
So you said they made some small tweaks and things like that. Once you got cast in the show, did you go back and buy the original cast album?
Oh, yeah.
Familiarize yourself. Okay.
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely. And what was funny in the auditions, you could tell they were using just the arrangements from the Roundabout project, because when I listened to the album, it was so crazy and overblown, and had even like kind of a 60s kind of synth vibe to it sometimes. It's a beautiful recording, but it's oddly arranged. I mean, they arranged it for the size of the production.
Right.
But yeah, I got the cast album. I went to Lincoln Center Library, did any research I could on it, found any original director's notes, stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, because I had never heard of it before. And of course, I'd heard of everything else that he had done.
Yeah.
And the sort of tidbit, which is amazing, that these 3 shows of his were running on Broadway at the same time, is incredible. It's
unheard of.
Yeah, I mean, this play musical, I mean, really in a way almost didn't have a chance with what was playing around it in terms of his stuff. And he was I think he was in a really tough spot when he wrote it, and he even kind of mentioned that when he was at Goodspeed.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
And one thing I would say about him, and I didn't spend a ton of time with him, but I mean, I spent, a week with him. But he had a real workingman's attitude. Like he just was a workman-like theater person. No artifice, no kind of flash. He just loved to talk about the process, loved to talk about theater in general. Was not afraid to, say in private conversations, yeah, I felt roped in the original production when I was writing it. I just, he had Hello Dolly, he had Mame, and then he just was in an impossible position. He had to write something huge again, but the source material just couldn't support it. Couldn't
It's
support
so
it.
tiny. It's so
What they
small.
put on top of the actual piece. So it was fascinating to watch them fight that, against that all the time.
Yeah, when you did it at Goodspeed, they really seemed to pare it down. So was it a smaller orchestra? What was the big thing that they did to kind of pull in that larger than life feel with the music?
Yeah, it was a 5-piece.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a 5-piece, and they were if I remember correctly, they were positioned almost like a street band, like a Parisian street band almost. Which is a great idea. Which is what it should be. It should be, because it's the way it's written. It's like quirky and esoteric and idealistic, and if you kind of give the audience a big wall of noise at the Mark Hellinger Theater, like it just runs it over. It runs it over like a bulldozer. Like it reminds me of when they moved 1776 to the Gershwin. Like that play was so intimate and so powerful. And they, I mean, it ran, but it just overwhelmed it. So I think paring the orchestra down, obviously, and really getting to telling the story. And what was interesting about the production at Goodspeed was that when you strip all that noise away from it and all of that stuff that was piled on top of it, you see what's brilliant about it, and then you see where it is really lacking, which was exciting because every day we would just attack what was lacking. And from the writing standpoint, from the acting standpoint, there were things that David Thompson, I think, knew that he couldn't fix. And I wonder if it's unfixable in a way because Jerry and the team wrote this thing knowing that they had to write to this size.
Right.
And so their focus as storytellers was already just way unfocused in that way. And it would have been interesting to see if they had done it, off Broadway. But that's a risk for him. That was a risk for him then, why would Jerry Herman do that?
Well, that's the craziest thing is with Dolly and with Mame, and you've got your Mame star, you've got Angela Lansbury coming back with this unprecedented 2-year contract. It's like, how can you make the decision? In retrospect, we look at a lot of these famous Broadway composers. We look at Sondheim, we look at Andrew Lloyd Webber and their failures, and they're like, oh, that should have been an off-Broadway musical. It would have worked that way. But it's like, when you're coming in with the clout and the resume, how do you say we're going to do it at the West Side Theater, or we're going to do it, down in the Village?
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
It's tough to do that.
I mean, it would be, No, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, did you even have an ensemble? Was it just simply the named characters?
Yep. It was just a play. I mean, it was a play.
Amazing.
Yeah, it really was. And I think what was really striking about it, done in that way, as an intimate kind of chamber piece, was it made her so big.
Right.
She wasn't a big sort of presence in a big overblown environment. She was this force of nature in this small contained area with fewer people, and so it made her the sun that everybody kind of like just
Was able
orbited
to
in that.
revolve around.
Yeah, and Sally Ann House was.
What was that like? Tell us about it.
So, well, and I didn't know this, but right up until I think maybe the beginning of the final audition process, I think Cheetah Rivera was supposed to do it at
Still
Goodspeed.
going to do it. Okay.
And I'm not sure what happened, if she had gotten something else or what, but Sally Ann was, first of all, like just a powerhouse of an actor. I mean, from the get-go, she had her lines memorized on the first day, which for a lot of actors, that's kind of a no-no. But for her, she, I think, had gotten to a point in her career and an age where she knew herself well enough that if she was going to do this, and you think how many numbers she has in the show.
Yeah.
So many songs.
And then the book scenes for her, like, you know, she was fully memorized. Her husband would sit off to the side and feed her lines. The stage manager wouldn't. Like, if she called line, she would call line to him.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Which was interesting. Yeah. He was like really sweet guy. You know, picked her up every day, drove her home every day. They lived in Connecticut.
So that was a bit of a...
like 40 minutes from East Haddam. But so she, you know, I was 25. So watching her work was like, and that's the one thing I loved about that I feel very fortunate that I had early success, was that I got to watch like great people work and learn from it.
Yeah.
And she was one of them. Like she would just listen, and she was smart, and she was generous, and she knew how to take that character right to the edge without making her a caricature, without making her non-specific or overblown. She knew how to make her the puppeteer of the whole thing that sort of pulls the strings of this. But at the same time, every time you looked at her, she was about to fall apart. Like she just brought that sense of like how fragile this woman was, but how much she was able to like influence other people and get what she wanted to get in the story and get other people to get what they wanted. And so it was this constant fragility. And she, you know, was right on the edge of like not knowing her stuff too, because it's a lot.
It is a lot.
You know, by the end,
this is a big show for that character. I mean, they don't stop.
I don't want to know. She was, you know, sometimes she was just like, you know, I mean, it was just a lot, you know. But
how was that Mad Tea Party situation? Like, was that the favorite thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, so like I was thinking about the Tea Party today and like really going back. Georgia Engel was incredible in that. And Georgia Engel, for those of you that don't know, she was on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. She was on Coach. Like I said, she was in Hello Dolly with Ethel Merman. And Georgia had like this very childlike personality. If you ever watch her on Mary Tyler Moore, you're like, there's no way this is real. And it's who she is. It's almost, she's gone now, you know, rest her, but like almost kind of like always in wonder and sort of virginal and like naive. And like, I remember my wife came up to when she was my girlfriend at the time, came up and we had dinner with like a bunch of people over at Georgia's place. And like, everybody was just like, I can't believe this is really who she is. Like, she was like, well, you know, I just sit here and my cat and I watch the sunrise and, you know, like that. And that's how she was in the play. You know, she has the Dickie, like the little boy that, you know, or the dog or whatever, like she really thinks it's there. And she brought this sort of fascinating, insane, childlike thing. And then Diane Findlay, who was just brassy and talking about her husband and then all of her men. And then that Tea Party many times during rehearsal and in performance would almost like teeter off the edge because the three of them were so crazy. And physically, I mean, they they were sort of running into each other a lot, and I mean, it was great. They were absolutely fantastic. And you know, I mean, George is gone, and you know, it's amazing remembering that. So,
Oh man, I love it.
yeah.
Well, I think that, the Tea Party is definitely one of those moments where I think the musical gets it right? The Tea Party works. If you've got the right performers, it works.
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously love and care about the show a lot. So I feel like I can ask you questions like this.
Yeah.
What parts, you're like, yeah. What parts of the show do you think really do work?
Okay, so
they totally hit it out of the park.
What I was just going to say, and it's interesting you asked that because it speaks right to what you're asking. The Tea Party to me is what makes it work, and also what I think audiences have trouble with.
Okay.
I remember, I was thinking about this today. I remember when I was doing, when we were doing it, the guy that played the sewer man, Guy Stroman, who was Rooster and Annie and Broadway way back. Great guy, great actor. And I remember now, I don't know if you guys read this, but critics were not allowed to come to this production.
Oh.
This was a critic blackout, because they wanted to really develop it.
Okay.
That explains why we couldn't find a ton of info.
Right. It was not reviewed. And which was interesting, but every night we would have talkbacks to get the audience feedback on it. What is working? What is not?
Oh, wow.
Because that was the mission of the Norma Terrace Theater.
Okay.
Inside of Goodspeed it was sort of an incubator, a lab, whatever. But anyway, so the Tea Party, if you look at the lyrics in the Tea Party, she's talking about Voltaire. She's talking about like a lot of kind of eccentric, specific references that I think like if you look, the source material for this is French.
Right.
Yeah.
So Giraudoux wrote this sort of like fantastical,
Oh, that's how you say it, Bobby.
Giraudoux, yeah. I heard that in the I heard that in the podcast, and I was like, I'm gonna talk to them about this.
Good, please.
So the source material is French.
Yeah.
Now the source material for La Cage is also it's a cinema, but that's a totally different animal. It's big. It's there's showmanship in that.
Yeah.
With this, I think sometimes with American audiences, there's something about the Tea Party especially that is, we are going to fight brutality by being with love, with eccentricity, with what they don't expect, with minds that might look unbalanced. And I think for American audiences, I don't know how viable, I don't know how sellable that is. And I hate to sound like that because it's so cut and dried business, but in a way it's sort of anti-capitalist in its through line. I mean, it really is. And I think the French sensibility of it, I don't know that you can sell that in a big musical. And that may have been why, I don't know this, but that may have been why in the original production, the producer saw that. They saw that was in the lyrics. They knew it was brilliant. They knew it was great, but they thought, okay, we have to put this all around it, these big numbers, this choreography, because if we just try to sell this, seemingly crazy woman and who is guiding around these two other seemingly crazy women talking about, overthrowing capitalism with beauty and poetry, it's great for a chamber musical, but it's really tough to sell. And I think that is one of the reasons why it was a flop. And I think, so going back to Guy Stroman, we could feel that the audience was pulling away from some parts of it.
Yeah.
And we looked at it objectively, like not because of the execution of it, because we looked at what we were doing, everybody, and we were like, I think we're executing this, in a way that's like, in the ballpark. But it was more, they would pull away, especially during his song, during Garbage, where you're talking about finding beauty in what's in the drain, what's gurgling in the drain, the orange peels, the the turquoise ink. Like there's something almost subversive about that. Like,
Yeah.
people don't want to find beauty in that stuff. Sometimes they do, but
I completely agree. When we were discussing some stuff fell out on the cutting room floor, and some of it was some of this conversation that Bobby and I had during the podcast. And I fell in love with the Tea Party lyrics, like you were talking about, because it is that. And I completely agree with you that there is this sensibility within the American psyche, and I'm generalizing completely, where really challenging the norm like that, and not just like the visual norm, but the way that we are taught to think can really kill beautiful work, right? That's certainly a big part of this.
Yeah, if you look at it, absolutely. If you look at, so 1969, right? This is Broadway. You have to think about who is going to see shows on Broadway in 1969. A lot of them are probably, and this is not passing judgment, but a lot of them are probably people from out of town that watch images on TV of the Vietnam War protests in Chicago, and so they go and they sit down and they hear this play about,
overthrowing
poetry, peace, eccentricity, all that stuff. They're not necessarily threatened by it, but they're not jazzed by it. Like, they're not going to go tell their friends to go see it. It's not going to have the word of mouth. And what was the timing of our production was really interesting. So the 2000 election was that November, when it took 3 months to decide between Bush and Gore.
Right.
And so we would go home every day and like back to the cast housing and like watch the votes being counted. And the administration that was coming in was an oil family, which, obviously the play spoke to that. And then you have to remember that a few months later, 9/11 happened. Then you have this extended war where people are fighting for oil and resources. And so that's why I think the show has a life and will continue to have a life, because of that kind of stuff. I think.
Do you think that 2021, 2022 is the time to have a revival? Do you think that there's more of an openness to what this play has to say?
Yeah. I would do something completely impossible with it, though. It would cost a lot of money.
Well, we don't want him to give away any secrets that he's,
So I thought about this.
Look, this is our dream world, okay? You get all the money.
So I think it can't be oilmen. I just think the whole oil thing is everybody's so numb to that. People love their cars. People love their plastic. It's petroleum. Like, I would completely rewrite this play, that either they're real estate developers who are trying to gentrify a neighborhood, or if you look at like what's happening right now, like in our neighborhood, we live in in the city of Philadelphia, about 3 miles out from Center City. We live like big, row homes, 3-4 floor row homes, but there are these big open spaces because we're at the end of Fairmount Park, and there are all these developers coming in who are buying this land and building these condos, which is, people need a place to live. It's great, but like, it's taking greenery away. It's taking a sense of community away. It's adding more cars to the neighborhood. I think this play works if you connect it to things that are happening now. So, and any good theater piece should resonate, whether you're talking about France or Paris, 80 years ago, or whether it should resonate today. But Dear World is a piece that, because of its problems, may not. Look at the technology that's around us. Look at how much we use technology. We don't see what's in the drain. We don't see the beautiful, thing that somebody threw away that you could repurpose. We don't, so I think that's why the show will always have probably workshops and attempts at revisals. But it would be interesting to me, I think, to take it out of its context in a way and rewrite it as maybe a half concert, half production with modern references.
Okay.
Where you have like the oilmen are real estate developers who are just sitting there with their feet up on the desks in their phones, totally disconnected from each other, totally disconnected from what she sees. I think the other thing that's problematic is the way those guys are written. They're all called president. Okay. They're all sort of the same. And Warren Kelly and Dickie Bell and Jeff Talbot, I think, did a great job of creating separate, kind of through lines for those guys. But the way it's written, it's sort of, they're twirling their mustaches a lot. And I think, and so you don't really buy what she's fighting against. They don't seem that dangerous. So this powerhouse of idealism that she is sort of going up against these sort of cardboard cutouts. They're not a real threat.
Well, and it's like, and that makes it probably difficult for the character you played, Julian, because you're supposed to be making this transition from being part of this group and being awakened to this world, right? But if they're such cardboard cutouts, it's like, well, of course he made the transition. There's nothing attractive about being in that group, right?
Exactly. And that was the tough thing, I think, for David Thompson was, Julian just all of a sudden is converted and transformed in like 3 pages. He becomes sort of like part of the island of misfit toys like that. Right. And that's, you guys know, as actors, you have to like make this leap to what that is. You have to make that work. But I just think there's an opportunity to stretch this thing out. And I said a lot of money because you'd have the Herman estate and you'd have to, but I just think the music is so beautiful and so, it cuts through a lot of noise that I think is around today, that I think if you reworked that thing and put it in a completely different context, I think the juxtaposition of a modern context with that music. And if you look at too, I think a lot of people, especially in their 30s and 40s, are more interested in like cottagecore and homesteading and doing more things at home, like appreciating more what is around them. I just think that's why I think this thing could have a life, no matter whatever that looks like, but I think it will continue to.
Yeah. I mean, all the things you just spoke to are what spoke to me in this show. I mean, in the podcast episode, we've never spent so much time talking about a score as we have this one. Yeah. At all. Yeah. And I literally was writing down lyrics just for myself, like not for the podcast, but for I'm like, paste that there and a paste that there. And like, I have these Jerry Herman lyrics screaming at me because they are just so stunning. And I really do think you're right. I think that there's a place where maybe it is completely modernizing it and taking it out of the time period the original concept material is from. But that's a really interesting concept that I kind of now want someone with the money to go and do it, please. If you're watching,
to let Ben do it. Like, to let Ben do it.
Now that I'm talking about it. No, but I mean, I always think it would be interesting to have her, because the character is probably in her 70s. So let's say it was somebody born in the 40s who is dressing the way she's dressing today in a modern street scene. She is sort of seen as the homeless, eccentric, crazy old woman. I just think that would be so, there'd be something really interesting about watching that.
I completely agree. I would actually really now saying that. Who is your powerhouse? Who is Aurelia?
I knew you guys were going to ask me this.
Who is it? And maybe also, you have 2 answers, because I would have 2 answers because there's clearly someone who I think should do it, but there's no way she would be able physically or mentally to handle the amount of the score and the dialogue, etc. So continue.
I think Bernadette Peters would be interesting.
Okay.
Yes.
Still a little young, maybe.
I mean, Angela was not that old when she did it.
Right. Yeah, I saw that the acceptance speech. I was like, wow, she's so young.
Yeah.
And then it was 1978 when she did Sweeney, right?
Yeah, about a decade later.
Yeah. Other than Bernadette Peters, well, who do you have, Bobby?
I mean, Liza, obviously, but
that would be. I didn't even think of that.
But there's no way, when I was working on The Visit with Rich, I mean, it was constant conversations with the entire team for a million reasons that she would come and replace Cheetah.
Right.
And it's just not, even when 2015, it just, for her to carry a show like The Visit was not something that was going to be possible. Dear World, which there's no way she could perform that many songs.
But do you guys watch Arrested Development?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Okay. So
Bobby doesn't
like it.
Now that I'm thinking of her in Arrested Development, I'm like, yeah, she would be great. She would be perfect as Aurelia. But you're right. I think it would be just stamina wise. That's really tough.
Yeah.
I'm also just going to throw another name out there who actually may be better for one of the mad women in the Tea Party, but Sally Struthers.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
Sally.
absolutely. Yeah, that's interesting to think about. But now you got me thinking about like a new production.
Oh, Ben's gonna do it. Oh my gosh.
Okay, Ben, when you do this, you call us and we'll be there.
Yes,
in some form or fashion, we are there.
We're gonna
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, so we could clearly talk for hours, and it's late on the East Coast. So, are there any other points, or just little bullet points you want to hit on before we say goodnight to you? Because we clearly need to have you back again sometime. Ben.
Yeah, I would love it. I would love it.
The loveliest
bullet points. Let's see. It was so great to talk to you guys.
Oh, just
great. And honestly, like I think it's great what you're doing, because the business is cruel and it can be cruel, and it is exceptionally cruel a lot to shows that don't make it. And so what happens, I think, a lot is the great things from those pieces don't get noticed anymore. And so I think you guys researching, excavating, reaching out to people, who've been part of things. I think it's great for actors because you discover songs that could be good for auditions. It's great for audiences.
Oh, yeah.
It's great for audiences because they realize they don't just have to listen to hits all the time. They can listen to these shows that have great music. And I think it does justice to the composers too, because these men and women sit and write and put themselves out there constantly. And I remember when I was doing Corpus Christi, and Terrence McNally had all these hits, in a row, Love, Valor, Compassion, and Perfect Ganesh and all this stuff. And Corpus Christi just got hammered, and he was confused and genuinely upset about it. And I think people forget, like, even people we imagine that are these powerhouses like Sondheim, like Janine Tesori, Lin-Manuel, who's a genius, like they put it out there, and a lot of times they don't think they don't think it's good enough.
Right.
But a lot of times it is, even in a show that fails. Shows, and you guys know, shows fail for so many different reasons.
Oh my God.
So many reasons.
So many different reasons. And I've said it, I think, a couple times on the podcast, but it takes so much to get a show on Broadway. Like something had to work to put $8 million into it.
Well, you and Rich saw that firsthand when you were producing. Like it is insane, how much time it takes and how much, glad handing and raising funds and, making sure that someone's not making somebody else angry and
and heartbreaking. We worked on The Visit. You have John Kander. Fred Ebb is no longer with us, and then you have Terrence McNally, and you have his partner, Tom Curdy. He is lead producer on this, and you see the show not working or the show not selling. And you see how heartbreaking it is to these people who have cabaret and they have all of these things already, but their children are no different, whether it's Deal World or Hello Dolly. They still pour the same amount of energy and love, and it's a world. Oh my gosh. Yeah, totally. Other than that, I'd love to sit with you guys again. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. Oh my gosh. Well, we will absolutely keep you. Oh gosh, are we supposed to ask him any questions here at the end, Kristina? I forget.
How about this? How about you tell us what you how about you tell us about what you've been doing to stay creative during COVID?
Sure. We were talking kind of before we started here. I have been writing music for years, so I play guitar every now and then. I'm writing some nonfiction right now, memoir stuff, which is like scaring me a little bit.
That's exciting.
Yeah. And my brother and I produced Vincent by Leonard Nimoy a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
He directed, I played Theo and Vincent, one-man show at a theater down here in Philadelphia in our neighborhood, big performing arts center they built down here.
Oh, wow.
Great.
In the city. So that was great. I teach every now and then, and my daughter is, wants to be an actor and is auditioning, and so I'm helping her with that. And my son is, a great basketball player and very creative, and so I have to be creative with that as a parent, believe me.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah,
is there anywhere that we can find your music? Have you put it out there yet?
Not really, actually, yet.
Okay.
I'm trying to I have so much written, and I have to really get it out there. It's just, once our twins were born, a lot of that stuff just kind of like backburned a little bit.
Twins are a lot.
Yes. But I mean, this is stupid, but if you go on YouTube and you put in Song of the Rebel Irish, there is a clip from a movie, Gods and Generals, where I am singing an Irish like Civil War song from when I did that film.
Amazing. Okay.
Yes. That's really about it in terms of YouTube and all that.
Okay, so this is what's you now have homework. You have to go and actually record some of these songs.
Right.
We can help you if you need other voices. Okay. And then we're going to promote it on My Favorite Flop.
Okay. You got it. it.
Okay.
Listen,
Great.
we'll turn it into a musical. It'll fail.
No.
And then it'll be on My Favorite Flop.
No. It'll be our special episode where we're doing a successful show today.
There you go. I love it. But yeah, honestly, I'd love to sit and talk with you guys again about this stuff. I love it. It's great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ben, and
have a good night. Guys. Yeah, you too. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my goodness! I told you this was going to be amazing.
Oh, that was so good.
Oh my God. Okay.
I felt like we just got to nerd out for like 45 minutes.
Oh, Ben will absolutely back. So for all of our listeners watchers, viewers, who are still paying attention, 1 week from today, next Tuesday, May 11th, we have episode 10. We made it to episode 10.
10!
10! Episodes 10 of My Favorite Flop is coming out, and you can find it wherever you listen to podcasts.
Literally anywhere. We're even on Pandora.
It's so crazy.
It's so fun. Okay, you can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and yes, the Tickety Talks, because this girl does story time with you, and you get to hear about all the insane things, like the time I lost my bra, my pants, and my wig all in the same show. So go check it out. Go give us a follow. And don't forget to tell us how you're feeling about the flops. We love talking to you, and it really genuinely brings joy to my days when I see that little notification on Instagram and someone's like, I know what the show is. Speaking of which,
Kristina has been talking to people all day. I've been getting notifications and I'm like, well, there we go. But speaking of, social media is also where you're going to find the clues for our next episode. And just to remind you, in case you haven't watched the Dear World episode yet, the first clue for episode 10 is this. Andy Karl starred in this musical, which is based on a film, which is essentially his entire resume. So yes,
but we hope you venture a guess at one of them. One of the 10.
One of them. Oh, and last but not least, though, you can check that out right there. Just a quick little note. We'll start mentioning a lot from now on. After episode 12, we are taking a break, and there are more details to come on that. So you definitely want to make sure that you keep listening to the show for the next couple weeks, because don't worry, we're all getting a little bit of an intermission break coming soon. Okay?
Yes, with big news to come.
Big news.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
All right. Good night. Bye.
Bye.